Okay, we've got our bend, our locator that allows me to select the bend control. The bend control is now moving the tip, the flexible portion of the scope, as well as the snare, this little snare we've created. Okay, I can go back, reset that bend curvature to 0. All right, let's show the polygons. And now I can see my scope. Stomach and pancreas are down here. Now I want to make sure one thing, very, very critical. Before I do any of the animation, I believe in a previous lesson I did this, but in this portion or in this demo file, I have my bend handle out here independently. I need that bend handle to stay with the curve that it's controlling. Remember the curve that we generated automatically when we created an IK for the joints that control the flexible portion of the rig. So if I go inside my rig and look, this is the curve that's flexing that distal portion of the endoscope. So what I'm going to do is select the bend handle as the child, hold down the command key, select the curve as the parent, hit the letter P, and now the bend handle will stay with the curve. And since the curve is under the control, and since the curve is under the control of the rig, or at least is being moved with the rig, and the rig is under the control of the stomach curve, everybody's going to stay together now. So let's test this out a little bit. And unfortunately, this is going to be a little boring, so I may pause the tape a couple times. What I want to do is basically get this, I want to get the scope, and more specifically the loop, at the point it should be to grab that battery. Okay, and I want to, although it's a little boring, I want to give you some suggestions or show you some suggestions on how you can do that. Right now my grid is really dense because I needed it to make my rig, so I'm going to change that. Oh, I did change it already. I'm sorry. I thought I had that. Oh, there you go. I did have it. I had it denser. Remember, I made a lot of subdivisions so I could snap joints, so now it's just a little easier to see. We'll leave the pancreas and the stomach as a reference so we don't inadvertently pick them up. Come back, get my outliner here, and we'll start working through some tools. Maybe need to do a little housekeeping right here. What's this? This is the IK. I'll double click it. This is the IK for my loop snare, if you will. This is the IK for the scope, and this is the IK just for the tip. Okay, so let's take the scope IK, since that's controlling the majority of this, and change its offset. Now I've experimented with this a little bit to try to save you some of the frustration or the boredom. So I'm going to try a value of 712. Okay. And when I do that, you can see here in the front view, and I'll move the perspective so you can see I'm pretty close. You know, I've got my stomach here, and my scope's pretty close. Now I need to get this flexible portion pointing more at the target, and I don't know if you can make out, but that blue, there's my target. Okay, so I'll get the flex IK and work with its offset, and let's see what happens here. Value. No, I'm sorry, I don't want to work with the flex IK offset. I want to work with the bend deformer. So I select my locator, my selection handle. That lets me, with the letter T, that lets me get that transform tool, and I can bend the bend deformer. Let's make this view even bigger so we can see closer what's going on. So this is the front and this is the perspective. Right now I've got them set pretty close. So I'll move it around just a little bit. Okay, so I'm in the ballpark. You notice that the bend deformer is doing a good job, but now I'm actually starting to go out the posterior. I'm almost at the, through the wall of the stomach into the pancreas. So what I can do now is maybe use that flex handle, and these handles are rotate and twist, and they may let me move that a little bit. Actually, you know what? That's not going to work too well because that's just that distal end. So I'm going to take those values off for a second. And let's try instead the scope. Now, if you're not seeing these blue handles, when you select the IK, these are the values you're controlling. If you hit the letter T, they'll show up, okay? So if you click on your scope IK and you don't see these, try hitting the letter T to get the manipulator tool. Okay, so that's giving me more of what I want. Now I can change the position so that I stay inside the stomach. And now I want to go back and maybe not bend this quite so much. So let's see if I can find, it's a pain getting this. Let me see if I can put this, there we go, we'll put the outliner right on top of the channel box. We may have to go back and forth a little bit. But let's try this. I'm just going to pause for a second while Okay, so I've got my outliner now over here a little bit. I can't quite make that window as, I can't change the dimensions of it as much. There we go. All right. So you can see I'm in pretty good shape here. Again, I may want to experiment with using the scope IK and manipulating a little bit. Now from the front view you can see I'm up in the air, but that's really not the scope. That should be the bend handle or the bend deformer, so I can come back and pull that back down. Another point, maybe I'm a little too far away. All right, so let's go back, get the scope IK, and go back to the offset here and maybe just change this a little bit. And you'd be surprised how much you need to change. So say I only changed that 0.02 and it got it closer. So now again, let's see, with the bend deformer, do I want to come down a little straighter maybe? Not quite so bent. There we go. And maybe add get just a touch closer. So I don't want to put that wire snare. I don't think it should be reaching out too far. I just don't envision it having a lot of rigidity and control. So it would seem that if we just get a little closer, we can get that where we want it. And again, I can see around the corner here, so to speak. So if I need to bend a little bit from the perspective window, I can. Okay, I think we're in the ballpark. And maybe now I do need to come up just a touch with the bend. There we go. Looks like that's got. And again, I can, if it's too difficult, you can actually, in other words, if it's too difficult to use this handle, you can really select in a very infinitesimal or tiny bit with these numbers over here. All right, so I think I'm in the ballpark. Now the next thing I want to do, let's see if all that work we did up top works. In other words, here's my loop. It's sticking out right now. I haven't done anything to change its shape. But will the IK we created, and I've renamed that, I've named it IK loop snare. It has the same control system now that the other IKs did. So in other words, if I come down here and go to the offset, and let's say 3, how far am I going to get it? Okay, I'm not quite far enough. So let's say 6. Well, now I'm pretty close. Let's come back and say 5.5. So you can see here, there's my battery. Okay, there's the snare. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll fine tune that and in the next recording.